You see someone online, or perhaps in your own life, killing it, and you think, I have just as many ideas, maybe more ambition. What if I told you that you can dream bigger than most of the people you know, but you're still stuck in the same old routines, the same old lazy days, the same disappointments? What if I promised you that if you stay with me through all three parts of this video, you'll finally get the one thing that no self-help book or viral motivation video ever gave you? The map out of the cycle, the hidden reason you're stuck, the truth about your own mind that Carl Jung tried to show the world, and at the end, the exact blueprint for turning all your pent-up ambition into real, lasting change. This is the reward for anyone who doesn't quit halfway, but it only makes sense if you stay to the end, because nothing changes until you see the whole picture. And trust me, you haven't heard this put together like this before. Why can't I do what they do? You plan, you daydream, you tell yourself that this week will be different, but when it's time to act, something unseen holds you back. Maybe society tells you it's laziness, and you've told yourself that 100 times. But Carl Jung would say that laziness is not a personality flaw. It's not even about being tired. It's a mask that we put on something much deeper, a hidden war inside our minds. Most people never look past the surface. They believe they just need more discipline, a better morning routine, or to want it more. This is why you can binge productivity videos for hours and still not get off the couch. The world calls it a lack of willpower, but Jung called it something else entirely. Jung's entire career was dedicated to uncovering the aspects of ourselves that we refuse to confront, which he referred to as the shadow, the hidden self that resides beneath the surface. The shadow is not evil, but it is cunning. It contains all the fears, doubts, bad memories, and insecurities that you try to ignore. Here's the mind-boggling part. The greater your ambition, the greater your shadow grows. This is because every goal you set, every risk you take, and every time you dare to imagine a life beyond the one you have, your shadow feels threatened. Its job is to keep you safe, small, and comfortable, so it goes to work when you start to dream big. All of a sudden, you feel tired, distracted, and unsure, and every action seems twice as heavy. Your mind creates plausible excuses to delay, rest, or avoid. Consider this. How many times have you decided to make a change only to find yourself doing the opposite just hours later? This is not weakness. It is a psychological defense system. Your ambition and your shadow are in a tug of war. You may believe that motivation is the solution. You can watch a few hyped-up YouTube talks, get that adrenaline rush, and perhaps you'll finally start right. However, here's the twist. Motivation is simply fuel for the shadow's fire. Jung believed that you cannot out-hustle the parts of yourself you refuse to see. The more you hype yourself up without addressing the real resistance, the more frustrated you become when it all falls apart again. Disappointment feeds the shadow every time you fail, and it whispers, "Look, I told you it wouldn't work." Let's plot out what really occurs, so you can see the pattern that almost everyone misses. You become inspired. You set a big goal. You start a business. You transform your body. You change careers. At first you're on fire. You make plans. You tell friends. But then the days pass. Doubt creeps in. Distractions multiply, and you start making deals with yourself. I'll start after I get more rest, after things settle down, after I learn just one more thing. Suddenly, a week has passed. A month has passed. Your motivation is gone. You feel like a failure, and you look for a new source of hype, a new secret, and the whole cycle starts again. The real secret is that it's not a lack of motivation, talent, or opportunity. It's a lack of honest confrontation with a part of you that's terrified of what might happen if you actually changed. Jung wrote, "You will call it destiny, and it will dictate your life until you bring the unconscious to light." How many times have you said, "That's just the way I am. I always mess things up," or "I guess I'm just not meant for more"? Read that again. Your unconscious, your shadow, is writing the script for your life, and you're calling it fate. But fate isn't final. It's only the name we give to patterns we don't understand. This is the question that almost nobody dares to ask themselves. Are you genuinely afraid of failure or success if you're ambitious but never act on it, and all the changes it will bring, whether it be being judged, standing out, or the pressure that... The shadow isn't trying to destroy your life. Rather, it's trying to protect you from pain, humiliation, and disappointment. However, it can't distinguish between real danger and imagined risk. Every time you heed that hidden fear, you shrink a little, and every time you do, your shadow grows stronger. Most people click away before the truth hits them. They continue to blame their energy, willpower, or bad luck for their behavior. But if you stay with me through all three parts, you'll finally understand how your shadow operates in your life. You'll get Jung's map for gradually making the unconscious conscious, not just theory, but real tools. And at the end, you'll have the blueprint to turn your ambition into action, regardless of how many times you've failed before. Most people never see this, but if you do, you're already ahead. In the following section, I'll show you exactly how to identify your own shadow and what happens when you stop fighting yourself and start working with your hidden mind instead. If you want more than hype, if you're tired of feeling stuck, don't miss the next piece. The reward is waiting, but only if you've finished the journey. You've probably blamed yourself for failing before. Maybe you called it laziness, lack of discipline, or even bad genetics. But the truth is that most people have never learned the real source of their resistance. Carl Jung would tell you that what you call your life is mostly the sum of your unconscious habits, your shadow running the show behind the scenes. It's not about weakness. It's about old survival patterns, memories, and beliefs so deep that you're unaware of them. This is why change feels so heavy. You're not only battling a habit, but also the invisible force that has kept you safe and comfortable since childhood. However, if you want to do more than just try harder, you need to do what almost no one dares: face your shadow directly. Consider the last time you really wanted to make a change. Maybe it was getting healthy, starting a business, or learning a new skill. Did you notice how quickly your mind invented urgent distractions, such as cleaning your room, scrolling through your phone, or talking about your goals, which suddenly became more important than taking action? This is not a coincidence. Rather, it's your shadow protecting its territory. Why? Because every real change is a threat to your comfort zone. Your shadow will use anything to keep you from taking a risk. It will fight, distract, and even punish you with anxiety, guilt, or shame. The paradox is that most people never face this. Every stuck habit gives you something in return, even if it's just temporary relief. For example, staying in bed means you don't have to face the world's expectations, and not starting that project means you never have to risk failing or being rejected. True, your shadow will always give you the illusion of safety by whispering, "You'll change tomorrow." However, you will never be able to break free from your old patterns until you identify what you are gaining from them. For this reason, Jung advocated for extreme self-honesty, even when it is painful. Most people never slow down enough to listen to what their resistance is really telling. But Jung taught that in order to change, you must bring the shadow out of hiding, not by force, but through conversation. Try this tonight. Sit in a quiet place and picture yourself asking the part of yourself that always gives you reasons not to start. What are you afraid will happen if I succeed? Let the answer come, even if it seems absurd, angry, or irrational. Often, the shadow will reveal old wounds, moments where you were laughed at, judged, or felt alone. Sometimes, it's the fear of success and the new responsibilities that come with it. Other times, it's the fear that if you finally pursue what you want, you'll lose the people who only love the old. The majority of people attempt to guilt trip or bully themselves into action, using guilt, self-criticism, and slogans that make no excuses. But Jung believed that this approach always fails, because you cannot hate your way into growth. Instead, he taught self-acceptance, which is not the same as accepting failure forever, but rather accepting that your mind is attempting to protect you, even when it gets in the way. When you accept your shadow, when you bring your fear, laziness, or self-doubt into the light, it loses its power to control you from the dark. Suddenly, you're not wasting energy on self-blame, and you're free to use that energy for something new. You don't have to win the war in a single day. If you're feeling stuck, don't set unattainable goals. Instead, do one little thing, such as sending the email, going for a walk, or telling one person the truth. Then, pay attention to how your shadow responds. Does it resist, try to bargain, or get louder? With each honest step, the shadow's grip loosens a little bit, so don't fight it, just pay attention. This is not weakness. Rather, it's simply old pain dressed up as procrastination or exhaustion. However, once you hear the story, you may begin to change it. The slightest, most honest action marks the beginning of any new, real change. Most people turn back at this point in their journey because it gets uncomfortable and feels slow. However, the ones who stay honest, keep listening, and take little, real steps are the ones who ultimately break free. Remember, the full reward is at the end of this journey. Most people will never get there, but if you do, you will have the blueprint to effect real change, regardless of how many times you have failed in the past. The final part of the journey will change everything as you learn how to turn your new self-awareness into unstoppable momentum. Not just theory, but the exact steps for transforming ambition into reality. Day after day, no matter how strong your shadow used to be, you will now get the step-by-step method that Jung would give to anyone desperate for change, and you will understand why you can never go back to sleep after seeing the shadow if you want to finish what you started and finally become the person you dream of. Don't miss the last piece. That's where the real breakthrough is waiting. By now, you've come farther than most by facing the hidden forces that keep you stuck, seeing how the shadow turns ambition into resistance, and learning the power of honest conversation with yourself. But here's the truth. Most people get this far and still turn back. Why? Because insight isn't the same as transformation. They understand their patterns, but they never turn awareness into action. Jung saw this in the deepest struggles of his patients. Self-knowledge is powerful, but it's useless unless it becomes movement. If you're still here, you're ready for the real road. The exact steps to finally break the cycle, outsmart your shadow, and become the person you were always meant to be. You don't need another motivational speech. You need a new relationship with your own mind. Here's what Jung discovered. The only way to change a pattern that lives in your shadow is to bring it into the light, over and over, with actions so small that the shadow can't fight back. Let's be real. Your shadow is always looking for a reason to say, "See, you failed again." Therefore, don't try to demonstrate your worth by making a massive change. Instead, concentrate on taking the smallest step every day, even if it seems pointless. Choose a single action that brings you closer to your goals. A 5-minute walk, a brief paragraph, one email, or one honest conversation, and repeat it, even if your mind tells you it's not enough. The power lies in breaking the spell of inactivity with each little wind, not in the size of the step. Most people drift through life, then wonder why nothing changes. Jung taught that radical self-awareness is the engine of transformation. So start tracking your journey, not for perfection, but for honesty. Every evening, ask yourself, did I take my small action today? What resistance did I feel? Did my shadow try to bargain, distract, or discourage me? Write it down, even if it's just a sentence. This procedure does two things. It keeps you honest, and it lets you watch your shadow in real time. What gets tracked gets transformed. One of the greatest lies that ambition tells you is that you must do it all alone. But Jung knew that real change occurs in community, not in isolation. Share what you're working on with one person you trust, or even an online group, even if it feels small or embarrassing. The act of speaking your truth out loud breaks the shadow's power, and all of a sudden, what once felt like shame turns into connection. You'll feel less alone. This is how your ambition becomes real, not just a figment of your imagination, but a living process in the world. The shadow is persistent. On certain days, you'll experience the return of all the old resistance, fatigue, excuses, and old habits calling your name. This is what distinguishes those who change from those who quit. They anticipate setbacks, but never let them be the end. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become, Jung wrote. Therefore, if you miss a day, don't let yourself feel bad. Instead, recognize the shadow, forgive yourself, and start again. Every time you return to your intention, you chip away at the old pattern. The people who keep going, even imperfectly, always outlast those who demand perfection from themselves. This is the blueprint in action. Here is your reward. The blueprint is real, practical, and proven by Jung's deepest work. 1. Name your shadow and write down what your laziness is really protecting you from. Don't judge it, just see it. 2. Choose a small daily action rather than a big leap. Only do one thing that moves you forward. 3. Honestly track your progress every evening by noting your action and your resistance. 4. Share your truth with someone you trust or in a safe community. 5. Expect setbacks, but when you fail, come back and start again. Never let shame have the last word. Do this for 3 weeks, and you'll notice that the shadow loses its grip. Your lazy days become less frequent, and your confidence grows not from hype, but from quiet self-rust. This is not theory. It is how real people with real struggles change their lives. Most will never finish this journey. They will watch half a video, save another tip, and keep waiting for the magic moment that never comes. But you, if you've stayed with me to the end, you've already proven you want the truth more than comfort. Carl Jung believed that those who dare to face themselves become the rarest and most powerful kind of person. They stop living someone else's script and start writing their own. The world needs more people like that. The world needs you awake, honest, and moving forward. If this series spoke to you, here is your final challenge. Share in the comments what your shadow has been telling you, or what small action you will take today to support someone else who is doing the same. Let's create a space where honesty is celebrated and transformation possible. If you want more deep dive videos that go beyond hype and give you real tools, hit subscribe and join this journey for real. Thank you for watching. Your new story begins right now.